Hey,
Jack, how you doing?
good, how are you? Enjoying this cool weather?
It doesn't bother me too bad today, wind's going blowing,
Yeah.
and then that's when
Start complaining.
I come inside. But other than that, no, it's not too bad.
Saw a new tanker,
Huh?
saw a new tanker.
Thank you.
Yeah, 17.
Up at all.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering,
it ran its first call.
and is, Scottsville volunteer backup?
We're first due, their second due, but they got the east. They have the west and north. We're down here
They
that way.
Divided.
Yeah, I think what the plan is, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think, I didn't know how that was gonna pan out.
It's pretty nice apparatus.
Yeah, but are they using, are they staffing more people there?
Yeah, they're running out the ambulances.
2 animals?
Yeah.
So in other words, they've got a dedicated EMS crew that have got dedicated fire,
Yeah,
but they could run 2 rescues if necessary.
correct.
I got you, okay. Well, as long as they got more people there, because I was afraid that, they get a fire call and go out and they'd be understaffed, not have a, you know, not have a backup plan.
This is what it looks like. Here's the front. Then just have to meet those. There's the back, and that's the fuel. Yeah. So they run in strips right forward early Thursday. Fine.
Okay. So the Scottsville volunteers are actually had their area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it looks like, hey, I don't know, looks like, we maybe. Here
Yeah.
for Scottsville,
I'm assuming, I have no idea.
if they're going to follow. That's, follows them, yes.
They half down by half Nelson.
Yeah. Which is half of not much.
Yeah.
Ah,
The big house caught fire on bonfire today.
what is it?
A big bonfire caught on Lake Lake Road is currently closed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I subscribe to the Nelson County, tourism. Stuff. They have some great stuff going
Oh, I
on.
know.
Wow,
What's that supposed to look
we had one of the best meals we've ever had. This tiny little restaurant up near the river. Oh my gosh.
Is that, over there?
like? No store?
It's down near a hot little charming hardware store.
Mexican restaurant.
This was French.
Oh, but I wouldn't strip mall.
No. It's in a little house where you wouldn't even,
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, Eddie, it was amazing food. And down on 29, going south into Livingston, it's across from the Virginia Distillery, if you know where that is. It's like a gas station mini mart, and it's got an Indian restaurant next to it. My husband said he always wanted to go, and I was like, oh. Yeah. And I said to him, okay, the other day, I said, let's go down for Indian food. Oh my gosh, Eddie, it was amazing. If you love Indian food, hey Melody, how you doing? We're good, but I'm chilling.
My wife was talking to me about that, and we go up that way quite often. You go up there, you drive the apple shed, the little, market on the side of the road, it's just a little frame of white building. It's before you get to Lebanon, it's on the right going south.
Uh-huh.
Fellow named Russ Simpson, his family had before him. He was a good friend of mine, real good friend, you got.
There's 64 in here.
I'm freezing. I keep my house at 73.
Well, let me pass this back up. Javier gonna be here today?
I hope so. He's gonna Zoom, okay.
No, he's on Zoom call with insurance.
Oh, okay, so probably not, is what you're saying, okay. That's too bad. I needed to talk to him about a couple things, but.
Well, yeah, I think we've got to have a big discussion on this issue.
Which one, Eddie?
Albemarle County did their annual assessment of
Oh, yeah.
real estate.
Uh-huh.
Every,
And,
news.
of course, it increased across the board.
of course,
In 2021 and 2022, just those 2 years combined, the property values went up 25%.
mm-hmm,
I'm not sure about 23, but anyway, the new assessment across the board increased the property values in Albemarle County. 6 magisterial districts and the town of Scottsville is separate. It's not in the Scottsville magisterial district. When they do these calculations, it's the town of Scottsville. Town of Scottsville was the only one that was hit with double-digit increase, 10.31. So I woke up this morning and found out that my house was worth $40,000 more than I went to bed,
wow, just in the town?
just the town. Now, the Scottsville, greater Scottsville area that's in Albemarle went up 4.8%. Now, my house, I'm on the county line. I take 10 steps out of my house, I'm in Albemarle County at my next door neighbor. What's the difference?
Yeah,
Oh,
And
that's mad.
yeah,
last year, Scottsville had the lowest rate.
yeah.
This year, they got the highest, and nothing's changed.
Is it paying for something like the rescue squad or something like that? I don't know.
Well, they use something.
Things that make you go, right?
They use something called, when they do this, it's like similar to what real estate people do. It's called a cost analysis.
Yeah, but that's not that formula is kind of fuzzy to me.
Yeah.
There are other counties that say, this is how we assess
Yeah.
your taxes and things. When I go to Albemarle, they're like, well, the formula is kind of complicated. You can't really put it down.
I read it 10 minutes more.
Did you?
And it's basically what your real estate agents use.
Like comps in the area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
But we all know that's not exactly a science.
well, you gotta sell houses to determine, market values and comps, get recent figures. Have 3 to 5 houses just for one house is
Mhm.
what a real estate agent would do.
Right.
Albemarle County couldn't do that with every property in Albemarle County.
Right.
So.
So what are they doing?
Well, the thing is, with the interest rates the way they are and the inflation rate, we have a high demand here in Scottsville for housing.
Well, and also because there's a limited amount of housing in Scottsville.
That's the thing, it's the
Right.
seller's market.
Right.
But you're not gonna get off a 30-year 3%, sell your house unless you're really gonna downsize. And if you try to buy a comparable house at a 7 point whatever interest rate,
Yeah.
you're a fool.
Right.
So anyway, but there's a lot of things that go into it.
So that means we're gonna pay 10% more in taxes.
Well,
I mean, that's the net of it, right, Eddie?
you will.
We're gonna get assessed at that level.
Well-
And we just got hit with a 25% last year.
Well, I know, that's what I was talking about. But it's funny, the 3 areas, well, I wrote it down here because I was hoping I'd have a chance to talk just before the meeting.
We got a few minutes.
30 minutes.
And you can't read this because it's in code.
Is that your handwriting that's code? Oh, yeah.
But last year, the districts of Ravenna, Jack Jewett, and Rio, their property values went up the most in that order.
Okay.
This year, Ravenna, Jack Jewett, and Rio were
The least.
the least, especially Ravenna.
Huh.
They went from being the most taxed down to number 6 out of 7 jurisdictions.
Wow.
What changed there?
Yeah, right.
And how do we go from 7 to 1?
See, I think Albemarle is doing some funny math there.
Well, I tell you what, we've got to talk about this because, it affects the businesses and the people that own the property. And there's no way we can go up on a real estate tax when we're gonna get hit with another
10%.
10%, 0.31, if you
Yeah.
want to go there. So unless, it will never happen unless Albemarle wanted to say, well, that 1% you want, we'll give it to you. Nah, it ain't gonna never happen.
Right.
So anyway, I think, that goes on the back burner. But yeah, it's,
I don't know, Eddie, we cannot keep limping along on business tax, though. Honestly,
well, we need to.
we're just
push.
not doing the things that we need to be doing. We have no real capital improvement program. We need money, an influx of money for the town.
Well, they're getting beat to death now.
I know, Eddie, I know, but we really,
Paid my taxes last year and I just shook my head.
I know, but we can't continue to have just two people in the office. Town business is getting more complex. I mean, Javier and Melody are like swamped. There's things that are going to need to be maintained, roofs and electrical systems and all kinds of stuff. We had to have volunteers paint the offices. I went in with my family, you volunteer and clean bathrooms. I mean, how much longer can you do this before people just throw up their hand and say, this is we're just chasing our tail. We're not getting anywhere. You know what I mean?
Well, what I do is to file an appeal with the county appraiser's office.
Well, can we do it as a, like a class action appeal? Could we do it as a group? Because let's try to mobilize some other people.
Well, I mean, the town of Scottsville could start something, or you could have a citizens group
Yeah,
start something.
yeah,
Maybe a petition.
yeah, let's do that.
It's gotta be done
Because 10% on top of 25% is crazy.
well, 0.85% is the tax rate now, and they say, oh, we can go up on the tax, we haven't gone up on the tax rate since 2019.
What?
No, they haven't. That's 2019 was the last time the actual rate went from 0.83 to 0.85.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And that's more, I hate to use the term equitable, but that's more equitable across the board because everybody gets hit with the same thing. But
Yeah, but they do the funny math because what they do is if they're not raising that percentage rate, they're raising your assessed value,
well,
right?
that's-
And then they make it up with the assessed value. And where's that money going?
Hey, Mike, can you hear
I'm
us?
not seeing it come back to our community.
Well, most of the real estate is supposed to be earmarked, I believe, for education and school system. And with with the truancy rate, the dropout rate, they're thinking about a new school on 29 where the county just bought some.
Mike, can you hear us?
The homeschooling, et cetera. Yes, we have people move in, but we have people move out
Yeah,
too.
right,
So why do we need a new school?
right.
Can you hear me? No.
Yay, hi, Mike.
Hello. How's everybody?
Hey, like,
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Yeah, glad everybody is
Well, I'm right there with you. Let's get a petition going.
yeah, I think so.
there. Now you can see me.
You'll get your letter sometime after.
I'm not gonna be happy. We're talking about taxes, Mike.
Yeah, the assessments for Scottsville town really went high, didn't they?
Yeah, Eddie was just bringing that up.
Yep.
Double digits,
Oh, goodness.
10.31.
Wow.
On top of what we already had.
Goodness.
You take that plus the 25% prior 2 years, so my house in 3 years has gone up 35%. No,
My, oh,
and I haven't.
yeah, that's amazing.
I
It's
haven't
hard,
been
it's
the
hard
door.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on a fixed income, there's help there, I guess, but hopefully we're doing better with that.
Well, we all on fixed income.
Yeah,
The county tells you how much you make,
right.
and the
Yeah.
government tells me how much I make.
Yeah.
And then you go to the grocery store and there goes that increase,
Right.
even if you ever got one.
The most expensive thing on 4 wheels now is my food cart going through Food Line.
Yeah,
Yeah, good point.
that's
Yikes.
crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get started on the topics at hand. Okay, did everybody see the agenda? Is there anything that we need to add or whatnot this time? So I wanted to recap the actions, talk about Ready Scottsville. Eddie, you weren't here last time, so I do want to get your thoughts on,
I can pull it off the Facebook page.
yeah,
screen.
being the outreach. Right now, it's run by Jack's nonprofit and he uses it mostly for weather, but we talked about using it maybe more broadly. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how we might use it and could we leverage it for things like life vac or fire blankets and, you know, other things for preparedness outside of just weather. So that's something to tuck away for that discussion. And then standards of operating guidelines. I had a discussion with Jack over this past, so we had some heavy rains recently, then we had the snowstorm, ice and cold weather come in. I wanted to talk, it's not really, I'm not really thinking of it as a standard operating guide, but it does feel like each time we come up on an incident, it's sort of like helter skelter. We just start all over again on what kind of planning we're going to do. So Jack was down here during the snowstorm and he's like, well, nobody's down here. Things aren't being shoveled. If there was a shovel down here, I'd take the shovel myself or somebody else. So is there sort of a pre-incident checklist that we could develop that says, okay, here's some things that we should go through if we know inclement weather's coming or other kinds of things. And then, you know, to the communication side of things, what we might need to do, whether it's alerting the staff, like I didn't know what was going on even after the floods happened and whatnot. So, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So,
This is the Facebook page. And so far we have more winter weather coming.
well, let's hold on to that, Jack, for a minute. Let's go in order. So anything else on the agenda that you wanted to talk about?
Mike, you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. I appreciate it though.
By the way, we went out in all county schools today. Mike, did you hear about this?
Oh, the phone service? Yes.
Brightspeed, the phone service went down?
They'd be able to make phone calls out.
It couldn't make calls out. Calls in were working. I don't know whether that's been resolved yet.
I haven't got any from tech support yet. Technology folks.
Well, I was hoping Javier would be here today so we could talk about this joint meeting with Brightspeed that he was supposed to be setting up and see sort of where we are on that. Has he had an initial conversation? Can we expect anything on the calendar at some point? I really think we need to have that conversation. All right. Okay, so then let's go through the first thing on the action items. The meeting with John O'Prandy, that's another Javier thing he was going to set up. Mike, have you heard anything about this?
Other than John is willing to meet it, he just feels it needs to go through the appropriate channels. In other words, I can't assign it to him. You see what I mean? Yeah, okay.
Certainly
Yeah.
not. No, I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect that you would. I just wonder if you knew what status was. It seemed appropriate for Javier as the town administrator to reach out to Chief O'Prandy and set up that meeting on our behalf. I mean, we are a committee of the town, but it's more official coming from the town itself, that
Yes.
request. But I didn't know if maybe you had heard anything from Chief O'Prandy
Nothing.
about that.
No, had not.
Okay,
Had
so
not.
that's still open. I got to change the date on that. Internet emergency access point. Are we resolved on this, that there's just no solution, or are we going to continue to work down this action? Mike?
I think, yeah, we continue to work. I have a request out to T-Mobile to see what they could provide as a low-cost alternative. But Jack and I have been chasing down Starlink as an option, and there may be some discounts or potentially grant funds. You know, I was doing research on the Wise County. Wise County has done a couple of interesting implementations with it. One at their schools, but also for students. So they've done some work there with Starlink. And then most recently, they had a telehealth initiative that provided grant funds for them to provide a Starlink mobile device on one of their telehealth buses or something. They have some sort of interesting configuration, and that seems to be working. I'm considering like potentially going to Wise to talk with the gentleman who's working that. I think his name is Charlie Hubbard. I haven't met him before, but just to maybe see how things are going at the school, see how things are going on their health bus, and hopefully make some contact with the Starlink government people who would potentially look at Scottsville as a good example of where it could come in as a secondary connection to the internet in case of emergency, but also used generally as an alternative connection.
Yeah, no, that's a
So,
good point. Now, one thing though, when Jack and I we were having some text messages, Jack, you were saying that it doesn't work in the rain or the snow.
yeah, that would be tough, right? If you needed a snowstorm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Small satellite that goes
Right,
inside your house.
right.
So I guess you had to go up there clean. That's my only,
Well, and most any satellite's gonna be prone to weather disturbances, isn't that correct?
Yes.
time up there clean every time since.
Well, even if it's not clean, sometimes you just don't get a good, clear signal when the weather is bad.
And this signal will be used for what now?
Starlink.
As a failover for when general communications fail, to look at it as a secondary emergency backup for town business, police and other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
During those times.
Yeah. So consider the big fiber cut that happened up at the bridge.
Right,
I think it's Carter's Bridge. Yeah.
yeah.
You would have stayed in service.
So if it's T-Mobile or Starlink or whatnot, I know Chief Jenkins had T-Mobile, but even during that fiber cut, T-Mobile went down.
Yeah.
Right.
It's tower site. Yep.
Right, so the option was to maybe look at Starlink as a satellite connection and explore what they might have to offer us. So that's kind of where we are with that. And Mike's continuing to lead that up with Jack. Okay, so I'll leave it on as an item. Look into better E911 addresses for private roads. I'm actually doing some work on that, even though it shows Mike here. So Mike, do you mind if I take this one off your list and put it
Yeah.
on mine?
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things I've done. I have looked into the signs themselves, the reflective signs. There's different colors, different sizes, different types. I was supposed to meet with Tim Kersley last Wednesday to do a walk around in town to look at potential placement of those signs on historic properties versus rural properties versus whatnot. So
Tim Kersley.
Tim
Call.
Kersley,
Kersley.
right?
New chief.
Yeah, he's the new chief.
Okay.
Right.
gotcha.
So-
Mixed up.
So he and I are gonna walk through town, but that was the day that they were manning the pumps all night from the flooding, so we postponed it. We're meeting next Wednesday for that walkabout. So Eddie, if you're interested, you can join us or whatnot, but I have done some research on the signs themselves. And then I have an action item. I brought it up in the council meeting to work with the Architecture Review Board for what those signs might look like for historic properties. So that's where we are on that also. And I don't know if this is later, but I will say I've Jack alerted me to a potential grant site through, what was it?
Yeah,
Like,
Kathy Span has Edworks. and
yeah,
We started the process of putting written pay for, one of the assembly products and stuff that we need to put signs in people's yards.
right. So it's only up to $10,000. So I've been working on that grant. I finished pretty much all the text. And now I have some questions. They're asking for budgetary information. So I don't know. Yeah, because I think it has to be either, I think through your nonprofit, because this grant we're submitting through Jack's nonprofit, not through the town itself. So who knows where that'll go, but at least I have the text written. Eddie, do you want to like review that text?
I could.
Would you mind? Okay, let me print that out. Yeah, it would be good. You know, what it does is it just gives you boxes to fill in. I filled in the boxes, but it would be to the best of my ability. Then there's, you know, attachments that you're supposed to, they want budgets and things like that. So I thought if you or somebody else could just look at it and give it a once over and say, oh, strike this, you know, just give your comments generally.
Okay.
All right.
This is their form. you just-
It's their form. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So,
While I'm going out, as far as the 11 signage goes, the type of sign, you know, that you've got that I gave you, and
mhm.
I've still got that. In fact, I talked to the guy that runs that company a few years ago, nice fellow, but they got different sizes, and they got different colors, I don't know, but,
Yeah, they're brown, green, red,
oh, yeah,
blue, yellow.
blue is the best.
They have yellow, I've never seen yellow ones before.
Yeah, I saw a sign company that made them all, and there's different mounting brackets for their signs. So there's some that you can mount on the post, like we were talking about for my residence. There's some that actually, you know, mount on the building itself. Then there's some that has like a flag post type arm where you can have it stick out and put the sign on that. So that's what I want to get with Tim about, to get his input on where he feels the best placement is for those E911 markers. And then, you know, given different property types, and then what color does he recommend? And from there, then I can talk to ARB. And then hopefully the grant isn't due till February 29th. So we have a little bit of time. So it would be nice to then have a submission, like a shovel-ready plan to say, these are the signs we want, these are the, you know, mounting brackets, this is how our process is gonna look like. But Tim agreed that it's pretty much a low-hanging fruit that would yield improvements and potentially save lives.
I hate to see these bigger blue signs, even
Yeah.
small blue signs stuck
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
I know it's the one that the Scottsville Baptist, yes, it works.
right.
But,
It's ugly. I mean, it can be ugly depending on the property,
I don't like signs,
right?
you know, it's clutter. We got clutter in Scottsville, we got signs we don't need. We got some we do need, and I think you can, you know, probably come up with something, for at least the historical building.
Yeah,
And probably the way the homes are clustered in the old Scottsville community, if you will, as opposed to going out.
the downtown,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the more rural types like me,
right.
different signage would be a whole lot better.
Right. And that's why I thought I'd get Tim involved to look at the kind of categorize the different property types, right? The in-town historical properties, the in-neighborhood signs with driveways, multifamily units, families that with shared driveways, those kinds of things, and then say which marker might be best for each property type in that category. The other thing that I'm tossing about, and I hate to throw out like more government regulation, if you will, but I have noticed, and Jack brought this to my attention too, that there are some areas that they actually have a policy on the books, an ordinance that says every property must have an E911 address marker.
I don't see anybody could, you know, get upset about that.
Yeah, right. But in to your point, Eddie, the different sizes, I remember when I was in Buckingham, the one I had was just this big, it was green, it was on a little pole right next to my driver, or maybe even on the mailbox pole.
I've seen them both ways.
So it was not very onerous. And then there's some that are actually quite decorative, that are white reflective signs that you could put nicely on historic properties. So that's a conversation for ARB, but I want to meet with Tim Kersley first and get his input, and then bring it back to council, and then look at the next step of ARB. Okay, so that's where we are with E911. So I'm going to reassign this one, all the E911 work, and then reach out to you all if I need help on that. Okay. Life vac communication to local restaurants and schools. Eddie, have you had any other additional conversations or anything on that?
Yeah. Just because, here at Scottsville Elementary.
Right.
Basically, I had to go through the channels, and I was ready to get up and go. And then, I had gotten in contact with, excuse me, Dr. Rich Linbeck, in the Department of Health. He's the regional medical director for EMS. You don't put
Really?
you don't put a Band-Aid on a vehicle unless he says so.
Really? Okay.
These balls.
Yeah, you know. If you
Is that, so you say regional, at the state level regional or county state level
State
regional?
level.
Okay.
You don't mess around with them.
And I think he's based at UVA as a practicing
Wow.
physician, so. But all I've got is email. So anyway, ask him about this. And basically what he said was, there's nothing that says it would harm anybody, but he questions its efficiency.
Really?
He also went on to say that it wasn't FDA approved. Now, in this day of bureaucracies, doing what they want to, that's just my opinion, thank you, but they've gotten out of hand. But FDA, CDC doesn't mean a thing to me.
Yeah, right.
It's just like a good, Mr. Goodrich, you never seen that placard in a Ford dealership. That's GM, but they'll never get Mr. Goodrich, but there it is.
Yeah.
Certified. So Lineback went on to say that there hadn't been enough clinical studies. Now, I don't know how you do a clinical study on choking. I wouldn't volunteer for it.
Good one.
I mean, it could hurt, it could harm the trachea and
Yeah.
life threatening.
Yeah,
So what they do was they use cadaver and insert an
Right.
object and pull it out. That's the only thing, the way they had to study. So the company claims that's their clinical process. Dr. Limbeck says that the FDA says that it's not
good enough.
not good enough.
Well, that's
They
probably,
also-
that's probably why they want all that case study information. So if you've saved a life, let us know and we'll send you,
Exactly, because
A
they
free
requested-
replacement.
The FDA has
Yeah.
requested approval,
yeah,
and that can take, years.
right.
I think they first started 5 years ago, so they haven't approved yet. So they can sell it. It's kind of like these pharmaceuticals that I can buy, it says not approved by the FDA.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway. that was-
Supplements and all that stuff, right?
Long story short, that was enough to stop me until I go back and haven't really had to find some more research, or actually try to talk with someone at this company and see where they are on their clinical studies.
Yeah,
Because we're talking about the businesses here and 10 schools.
yeah,
So I'm treading water right now, but I'm on it.
yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good, Eddie. I mean, yeah, you don't want to push something, but I would tell you, for somebody like me, and I always tell my kids, don't have an emergency because I'm not good at emergency. But if you don't know what you're doing in terms of Heimlich, or you don't have the strength, if you're, I'm chicken bone arms,
But it's a funny
it
thing.
would be helpful to have.
Dr. Howley, that
Hmm.
came up with
Yeah.
this method. He's at odds with the Red Cross, because the Red Cross has a program similar to CPR, and they throw this choking thing in, and they recommend basically 5 slaps on the back.
For adults?
Yeah.
I knew that was for children. I didn't know for adults.
Yeah. And if that doesn't, make it come out, then you do the abdominal thrust.
Mhm.
Heimlich says, anything that the Red Cross puts out, take my name off of it, because I do not believe in the back
Yeah,
Slap method.
because I had heard that would lodge things even deeper potentially.
You could come this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on what it is and the size of the person.
Right.
So he said, take my name off anything associated with it. So
Huh,
matter
interesting.
doesn't refer to the hammock, they refer to upward abdominal thrust.
I see.
So
Interesting.
Kind of tells me something right there.
Interesting
When it-
politics of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, confirm our current evacuation shelter and transport system. Mike, this was you, I think we had an understanding at least that the schools
Yeah,
are
yep.
the point of evacuation and that Jaunt would be the transport system, but we were waiting to get some official word. Would that come from Chief O'Prandy? Where would that
Yes,
come from?
yeah, I have an email from him to that effect. And that's the other reason that it has to go through Javier. The request for him to come in, I think that would be an opportune time for the validation that you're looking for.
Okay, so you expect that we'd validate that at the joint meeting with him?
As well as the transportation. I think the transportation, John is an option. But in the email back to me, which, was back in December, he indicated that his office would coordinate any type of transportation without saying who it would use. So I think we need to get more details. Once again, it's the process. It's not knowing is negative to being prepared, right? If you don't really know who's going to be your transport, then you're struggling when the time comes that you need them, right? John's not going to be sending a bus down here the day of an incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we're trapped with a moment of time that they've got to drive something all the way from Charlottesville, and time is of the essence.
Right.
It's that type of thing that we need to talk through with EMS and risk management and just make sure that they are aware that, we're not accepting of a time delay when an emergency happens.
Right, exactly, Mike.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
that's what I think we need to do.
Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda for that joint meeting and see if we
Yeah.
can get some movement on that.
Right on.
I may have said something in the past, would the school bus be a backup?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'd have to. My fear is that, at the time as something like that would happen, like even during this last flood, I mean, those waters were getting pretty high. I was starting to get a little nervous. Jack sent me like, oh my gosh, it's at this level, pictures of Mink Creek, which was like an inch, below the bridge down here. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, right? We're talking about emergency preparedness and we are not prepared for if something like this happens. So I really would feel much better knowing, at least having some idea of what we would do.
Saying we are not prepared, you're saying the committee or the town council or the town or
Everybody,
All of the above, all of the above.
I mean, somebody has got something in place, the fire department has their duties, if you will.
But, we talked last time, Eddie, and you weren't here. We talked about did you get a copy of the operations plan emergency operations plan? I went through it and I had a lot of questions. And I'm sure you must have too, right? Which is why I want to get Chief O'Prandy in a meeting to see if we can get some of these questions answered. We also put up the flow chart from the Mink Creek plan, and it doesn't really dovetail with this approach that the county has outlined. So I think there's a lot of questions. I have confidence that everybody in their own world might have an idea of what they need to do, but it's bringing it all together in this holistic process. Like even Tim Kersley said to me at one point, I need to know who I call, right? I'm a first responder. I'm on the scene. This is now reached critical mass. Who do I call? He didn't know.
Yeah.
So, and then there's all kinds of communications and alerting. I don't think from a town office, we have all of that down. In that plan, there's level 1, 2, 3. What triggers us to go from level 1 emergency to level 2? Once it's in level 2, it's in the county's hands and they have responsibility before it. But they also say that we have to be responsible up to 72 hours on our own. So if that's the case, how do we transport? Because the county may be busy with a higher populated area and can't get people to us. So what's plan B in that 72 hours if we have an emergency? So those are the kinds of questions that I had.
I just wonder, was the town represented at all on this?
It doesn't look like it to me, and I was gonna ask that exact same question. We are mentioned once or twice and very tangentially. We're not on the map of, even on their map of areas that they're concerned about. Yeah.
Brand new map.
So that I had a lot of questions, and I would like to go through that plan in detail, but, and I don't want to do it in a way that's antagonistic because, we do need to collaborate on this, but it's unfortunate that there's a missed opportunity to partner. And in the document, it says very clearly, we did outreach to partner with a wide, group of people, but we weren't on that list as far as I know. So.
But that's when we first started this committee, that's been my thing. Let's see who thinks they've got it all done. Let's get in contact with every agency and find out where Scottsville fits.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I want a real holistic view. I'd love to see that flow chart that's in the Mink Creek, which is really just for flooding. I'd like to see a more generalized one, just a simple flow chart to say, okay, for any incidents, train derailment, this, that, and the other thing, how, what does that look like? So, yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done there. Okay, the other ones I think are fairly straightforward, so I'm not going to address those action items. I think some of them are already in progress. And I want to get into, we've got a half hour left here, the Ready Scottsville platform. So this is sort of Jack, why don't you just brief us, say a few sentences about what Ready Scottsville is?
So Ready Scottsville is, I got the idea out of Arlington's emergency operations idea website, searching one day, pop up this, and I've seen follow up ready agencies around the state. And I thought this would be a brilliant idea for Scottsville. So I ran ahead and created this as to see how it actually all worked out. So far we have excellent success, right?
How many, so you have an Instagram, so it's all social media
It's all
based,
social media only. No, nothing else.
Instagram and Facebook, right?
Facebook. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to get everything all together at once. But we had, during the flood, winter storm, we had over 5.7K followers view the page. Same thing for Instagram throughout the entire weather events. So see right here, we have, this was recently, we have a winter storm coming in again tonight and tomorrow, so I went ahead and put this up to see a graphics. So I went ahead and these are all the graphics I made. Everything goes through the chain of command for graphic wise. So first I go through Aline, then Javier, then Chief Jenkins to get the heads in the right place inside the approval. Then it's all the graphics from river levels, preparedness tips. What to do if there's an emergency, all sorts of stuff, what to do if there's power outage. And basically, major tips and outreach that I can think of, the best opportunity for residents down here to see, understand what to do. So far, every single resident has approached me when I was down here. Every time I'm down here, people come up to this, think this is a perfect opportunity for all this to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I monitor these channels and get a great deal out of it. I know other people do too. And Eddie, you weren't here the last time, but we talked about at one point having maybe a newsletter come out periodically about what's going on in preparedness in the community. But my thought was, we have to get somebody to maintain it. How frequent does it come out? Are people really going to pay attention to it? And it struck me that maybe through Jack's social media pages, his outreach, it might be better to put these things out there. So let's say, for example, with Life Back, if you felt comfortable at some point saying, yeah, we should endorse something like this, putting it out there and saying, oh, community, hey, here's something for your consideration, right? And that might be a better way to reach people through the social media rather than just do newsletters and stuff like that.
That'd be more
So,
appropriate not to do that, like Eddie said.
pardon?
I feel more not appropriate to do that because of what Eddie said.
Yeah, no, I'm just using it as an example. I think it's premature to do that at this point to Eddie's comments, but so Eddie, do you want to weigh in on that? What your thoughts about using social media versus say, just general, hey, FYI, with respect to emergency preparedness newsletter?
I'm talking about physical.
Yeah,
Like,
right,
yeah.
that we put at the library and, down out here in a flyer holder or whatnot.
I think it'd probably be a waste of paper.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
thought,
Everybody uses the internet now.
social media.
I mean, I think the daily progress is probably down to about 18,000 subscribers,
Yeah.
maybe. And they've gone digital and you can read the paper on the internet. That's the way I do it. They don't have any home delivery anymore.
I can
Okay,
also set up, so if we do want to do a newsletter, I can automatically create one of these sites I used before, let you make a newsletter, automatically post social media.
yeah,
Or something like that.
I think just quick blurbs through social media are, people, that's what people have bandwidth for these days. I know that's me, maybe I'm like a little bit,
Paranoid.
no, but like short attention span, like I have the attention span of a gnat these days, right? So Ready Scottsville appeals to me because I can go to Ready Scottsville and say, okay, is there something going on, right?
Then we post, basically, we monthly post like, this is the one I took with my drone of all the police cars with the lights on. This is Brad's new vehicle.
Hmm,
And Jack, all these graphics borrowed from another source,
We have partnerships with other sources.
like the one you got your cursor on.
This one, right, no, that one is from, forestry, I don't change graphic or anything, I just keep it as copyright, because I got it off of, other agencies uses it. And so it's leave their graphic alone, and so they have the copyright thing, that's in that.
Yeah, so my concern would be, that we have permission to use.
Yeah.
The way that this is presented as well as the information in it.
So if I click this, and this gives like short delivery, so it's.
does it give credit for the image?
Gives them the credit at their, you can spread that, I just copied this off their main Facebook page, so
Yeah.
it's not give them
Yeah.
source.
That's not uncommon on social media, as long as you give them credit,
Yeah,
right?
Right here. Says no more, click this, it takes you to the, forestry's website.
And that's another point.
And it says the website right here.
It's good to see the links there, all these the government agencies and all these nonprofits and, they've got, resources and staff like we don't have.
Right,
So this thing is updated. In other words, a thunderstorm warning, if I go there today and there's nothing, I go there, tomorrow, if there's something there, somebody put it in there.
right.
So my concern is if Jack is gonna maintain this,
Right.
does he have someone back up,
I use Shane, I go through you, Javier, and Chief Jenkins is my.
Yeah,
person surrogate.
Well, that's for approvals, but I think what Eddie's getting at, correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, is if you are unavailable, let's say you're in FEMA training and there's a weather emergency.
I usually have monitoring, like something like over last minute training. I told them I had to step away so I could do this, they gave me permission, I went ahead and updated really quickly, go back to Zoom.
Yeah, the Instagram pages are pretty fast to upgrade, but I think Eddie has a good point. We should think about, you should think about having a deputy that if you're not available for whatever reason, we could call and say, hey, this needs to be
Yeah.
posted.
I said, I offered it to other people that did not.
Okay, well, let's think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do Instagram
I've
easily,
seen
but I don't have Facebook, so,
I've seen where if I publish it to one, to the Facebook page, I'll make the loops to Instagram, so I don't have to do two of them.
oh, okay. All right, well, we should think about that. I think that's a good point, Eddie.
I mean, God forbid, Jack might be involved in for the flooding or another catastrophe, if you will.
Yeah.
Any of us could, but
Yeah, I mean, he's down here
Yeah.
monitoring things and he might not be able to get to
Yeah.
the social media because you're involved in
Yeah.
something down here with Chief Jenkins, let's say. For Jack for Ready Scottsville. Okay, I'll put this as an action item. I think that's a good point, Eddie. Thank you.
We're gonna be, that's heads up, we're gonna be action figures for action items.
Yeah, I know.
Don't forget.
But it's good, I think, to have a list of things. Listen, we're in a town environment, we're building partnerships with county representatives and this and that. Things aren't gonna move quickly, so we'll just keep them on the list and keep coming back to them. I
Yeah.
think we have, right now, I have 7 broad categories of work that's going on. And I'm keeping track of that. And then all of these action items sort of fall into these 7 projects, if you will. So I don't think it's too onerous. A lot of these are steps in a process, not the whole thing itself, so. All right, so any other comments on Ready Scottsville platform?
Looks great, Jack. Good work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've done a really good job with that, Jack.
Try to get word with Elmer County, see what graphics are good ideas to use. Some work with their PIO, reach out to their PIO, see what the best information tips on what to do about graphic device, because
Great,
a lot of people like the graphics. And more graphics make it read quickly, what's going on,
Right.
how, what, when, where, and why. Instead of putting like a long paragraph in, like 1 to 3 sentences, all they need to read.
right. Okay, great, excellent.
All right, so next one is a new item, standard operating guides. This came to my attention over this past Tuesday's winter storm and recent flooding in Scottsville. Brought to my attention when I was walking during the recent past few floods that manhole covers, storm drainages are covered with debris. I don't know if that's, I'm a county VDOT, I have no idea. Both? I.
we're talking about, yeah, well, Valley and.
Yeah.
Main.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them all covered. I'm just afraid that if they don't get us covered, that we're gonna have major issues.
Well, the other maintenance gentleman we had here. Used to, clean
Dave.
those out, it's Dave cleaned them out as far as they could.
Yeah,
I don't think our current one's been doing that because I've seen the accumulation,
yeah,
but it's another one of those things. Hey, album all is what we need.
yeah.
Hey, if we're gonna be with VDOT separate from Albemarle, we
Yeah.
can tell them. And then they can tell us, well, you ask Albemarle, that's the way it's gonna be, but that's, it's only, there's only 2 counties
Yeah.
in Virginia that maintain their own roads. And that's in Wrightville and Alexandria, they have county roads,
Yeah,
everything else is VDOT.
Well, I was looking at the National Weather Service and they have an event ready guide, and I think we need something like this adapted for
so
Scottsville.
you're talking about that I tried. or-
No, this is planning for your event, and
I would already do that for.
no. This is for a weather event, Jack.
Uh,
So what this is just a checklist and recommendation of things to think about in the event of a weather emergency. And it has a checklist, I think, embedded in here somewhere, and I can share this with you all. But like for our checklist, it would be like Jack would have shoveled, but because there was nobody down here
Yeah, I think-
necessarily, but he couldn't find the shovel. So before a snowstorm, we should have the shovel available. We should have salt available downstairs. We should have,
Yeah.
there's probably other things on a checklist that we could just say, these are the 10, 12 things that we need to do before a snowstorm, before a rainstorm, before,
So-
those kinds of things.
I did
So
this-
that Javier can take that and then just look through the checklist and say, okay, bad storm coming tomorrow, here's the 10 things I need to do, right?
We talk about shoveling, you talk about air.
Yeah.
up here.
Well, for,
Every business, I think, is supposed to take. care of
Yeah.
that.
that's
Yeah.
right, that's right. But,
Sometimes, yes, sometimes. no.
but like securing things, like if it's gonna be high winds, like per the emergency operations plan of the county, I think we have 3 top risk events. One, flooding, high winds, and severe weather. I think those were the top three, if I recall correctly. Now, if it's high winds, like we have trash cans and stuff out here, we have picnic tables, we have other things that probably need to be secured, right? So that would be on our checklist of high winds, right? To do those kinds of things. And that someone like Cody on maintenance or Javier, like I asked Javier during this last snowstorm, what's up with the plowing, right? Who's coming to plow? And he said, well, I'm not sure our plowing contract was updated. So he wasn't sure who was coming to plow, if anyone was coming at all to plow. And so I said, well, whoever comes, let's make sure too that the ADA spaces are cleared as priority and yada, yada, yada. It's just a basic checklist that we would go through each time to, first storm of the season, make sure our plowing contract is in place.
And I'm confused about that because, again, VDOT, the county is supposed to take care of the roads and streets. And why do we have
That's for like town properties.
huh?
That's for like the parking lot right there.
Yeah.
all the town.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the parking lot.
Yeah, this is for the public parking
Okay.
spaces for the town,
Yeah.
not necessarily for the streets.
Or the-
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
maybe lot.
So one thing that I would like you all to think about those three risk areas, right? Wind, severe weather, and flooding. And think about what, planning items you might want to do on a checklist that would help Javier kind of go through this and say, okay, I got it all right in front of me. Have I done these 10 things? Oh, I forgot to alert so-and-so, or, just give our plowing company a heads up to say, hey, make sure you're coming tomorrow, right? You got everything on board. So it would be things like that. So I'll send that out in an email and just ask for your inputs and see if we can get something like that started and get it on the books. And I'll go through, and I can also share this checklist that I found somewhere for event ready, weather event ready stuff.
Is Howard checking on the
Yeah, he was. I haven't checked back with him. I had hoped that he would be here today. I know he's been super busy. I didn't want to bother him, but it is something that we should, listen, as the town administrator, I'm sure he's got a million things he attends to, but we need to make sure that those things are done beforehand, right? Because this time it wasn't so bad, but it could have been a foot of snow. We don't know, right? Okay, any other things on that? Jack puts it on as a standard operating guide. I really don't consider it a standard operating guide. I really just consider it a checklist of pre-incident planning, if you will.
We could make it a standard operating. Standard operating.
Checklist, yeah, that's a
Or
good name for it.
guidelines.
No,
It's basically like a guideline.
I like standard operating checklist because a guideline says so much more to me, than a checklist. I don't want to get into lofty documents and all this
The
nonsense.
guy don't have to say what the chore is and how you get it done. And the only thing the answer is, did you do this? Yes or no?
Yeah, right. It's really just a checkbox, right?
Check box.
Yeah, so standard operating checklist would be good, Jack.
I see Mike smiling.
Okay, any other comments on anything that we have open or anything like that?
Yeah. Okay, that way.
Can you hear us, Mike?
No, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry. I
Do
didn't.
you
I
have
was
anything from the ball band office or anything from the bang level for us?
a little bit louder there, Jack.
Do you have anything at the county level, Mike, that you have for us that you want to share or think we should be paying attention to?
Not at this point. I mean, Firefly continues to do their work, so you'll see a lot of activity with their trucks and everything, doing the make ready on the telephone poles, etc. We're currently working on whether or not we're going to support a bill that's going in front of the General Assembly, which impacts primarily CVEC. CVEC is against this bill, which will increase their cost to do make ready. And they feel that they're handling it well, and we agree with CVIC, they're handling it well. Every time you have to put new fiber on telephone poles, you have to do an assessment, a safety assessment. And if the poles fail that assessment, then you have to pay to have the poles reinforced or worst case replaced.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they're trying to shift that to the co-op, which is not really the right place for that. So we're gonna talk about that coming up Wednesday. We have a meeting next Wednesday with the Broadband Authority. And then the last thing, and I'm not going to, I'm holding out hope that this is going to happen. We have a number of ACP, Affordable Connectivity Program recipients, and 18 to 20 of them will likely be in the Scottsville apartments.
Wow.
Because Sarah Holman and her company, Nelson Cable, are hooking that up. So each of those offices or each of those apartments will be connected to fiber. The problem with that is that the Congress has a bill, a payment bill or a refunding bill for the ACP, which they failed to act on so far. So it's, it's for low income, et cetera. But we're just watching that carefully to make sure it doesn't go away, or at least we have a plan for making sure that those people who are participating in the ACP have a soft landing, so they're not, faced with an extra $30 per month, because right now it provides them $30 per month toward their internet. So yeah, that's where we are. Sorry to go on there.
No, that's great. That's a great update. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. The last thing I wanted to say, do you feel we should meet in 2 weeks or in a month? Next meeting.
That's fine. I know I'll be gone first week in February, next for 10 days for training.
Okay, so let's look at the calendar here.
16th.
It seems like, some folks, I don't feel myself to a point that we've been trying to get in touch with, haven't really gotten back to us, or we haven't really followed up on the actions.
Yeah.
We've got some spots there.
So maybe 2 weeks.
Maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Eddie, thank you for that. Okay.
That's just my feeling.
So then the next meeting's going to be on February 1st at 3 o'clock, Thursday. All right. And then I'll see if, yeah, maybe you and I can talk. Maybe we can have a joint meeting with a session with Javier. I have sent him a message to say that I did want to meet with him on a few things for at least a half an hour. Maybe we can scoot in. All right, and get these handled offline. All right, everyone, that's all I had this time. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Mike, you take care.
Okay, thank you all.
Stay warm.
Yes, will do.
All right,
All
bye
right,
now.
Bye.
There's a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna give him a heads up. Saying, hey.
We're in Scottsville now. Is that something that people can use right now?
Yeah. It's a really, Jack's really done a great job with it.
Yeah. I saw it was on Facebook. You said Facebook. When you put things on Facebook, you see something from January, something from November, maybe. There's a lapse there where there wasn't anything to do.
Yeah.
Other websites, not yours.
Right.
Is there any way to delete those obsolete,
On Facebook? Oh, I mean, in the past. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It tells you how old they are.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that, it might be especially older people. They're just, they can try to use this. I've seen some of them try, I'm one of them, but, you read this, and I look up, and I say, oh, that was November 23.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Eddie. I've gotten in the habit now of checking dates because of that issue, I'll think, oh my gosh. And then, this news item comes through and then I realize, oh,